Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about zeroing the Beretta CX4 rifle. Okay. Now, normally when I zero my AR-15, I use a 50-yard zero, which that gives me a second zero out at 200 yards, and pretty much I know that from zero distance out to about 250 yards, I can hit anything within 3 inches. Okay. Now, if some people are going to use a 25-yard zero, which will give them a 300-yard zero, and what happens at about 100 yards or so, you end up being about 10 inches high. But the point is that all that's kind of standardized, and people kind of know what they're going to hit at different distances. Now, with the Beretta CX4, which uses the 9mm, basically that information isn't really out there. So I figured that that this would be a good video to make, and a bunch of times when I've had to change scopes, or re-zero the rifle, because just now basically as we moved from the winter into the spring, what I found is that due to thermal drift on the scope, I had to kind of readjust my scope. So I just really didn't remember where I had zeroed it the last time. And I kind of had to go through this whole process again. And this time I decided I was going to write it down and I was going to make a video about it so that in the future I can refer back to it and you guys can kind of do the same. So the zero that I used was an 18-yard zero, which gave me a second zero at 75 yards. Okay, let's look at some of the shooting results. Okay, that I had. Now, mind you, today has been pretty windy. I mean, if you look at the wind ribbons, we're getting gusts of winds up to 20 miles per hour. So, it did open up the groups a little bit, but it still, it still gave me a good idea of where I was and where I wanted to be. So, at 18 yards, here, let me get the second paper out of the way so you guys can see it. Okay, so that's my zero at 18 yards. Okay, basically everything is within 1 inch. Okay, so 18 yards. Put that here. Right. So then I went to 30 yards. At 30 yards, I am 1.5 inches high from the center of the bullseye. Okay. All right. So that's where I'm at. Then I went out to 50 yards. At 50 yards, I am 2.5 inches high from the center of the bullseye. So basically, the center of my group is right about here, about the center of my bullseye. Basically 2.5 inches high at 50 yards. Okay, at 75 yards, it starts coming back down, right? And basically, that's where I get my second zero. So basically, I got 3 shots, right in the center of the bullseye, and then basically the wind, I guess, pushed my shots a little bit to the right. But the point is that at 75 yards, it came back down. So there's my double zero. I got 1 zero at 18 yards, and I got a second zero at 75 yards. Now at 100 yards, actually 110 yards, that's where I happen to have my target set up at, 110 yards. What I needed to do, because basically bullets start dropping pretty fast. So in order to get on the paper, right, and as you can see, the group's kind of opened up. There's at least. Obviously, the 9mm is not super precise for shooting distance. From the 2 widest points, I got about 7.5 inches. So the group opened up to about 7.5 inches. But basically, all my hits are on target, on the paper, basically. In order to get this zero at 110 yards, basically I had to take my red dot and basically split it at the top of the paper. Now, mind you, I have a 3 MOA, so basically my red dot actually kind of went from the edge to the edge of the paper, and basically the bottom of the red dot kind of came down over here to the center of the paper. But I basically, I want you guys to understand what I'm doing with the red dot. I'm basically splitting it right at the top of the paper. I'm not putting it on top of the paper. I'm not, I'm not doing so. I'm actually splitting it right along the top edge of the paper. And I did that twice. Okay, basically with the holding right at the top of the paper, splitting that red dot right along the top, basically it's going to come about 4 inches low. So basically the center of my group is right about here, right? So that's about 4 inches low from the top of the paper where I'm centering on. And this is important to know because basically if you try to put the red dot right in the center of the paper, right, so it's going to look something like that, your shots are even going to, there's a good chance that your shots may actually end up going below the paper, which, basically you're going to have no idea where they're going, whether you need to hold high or hold low. And basically this is part of the reason why I'm making this paper, because it took me, I had to do a lot of shooting to kind of figure out, where would be the optimal place to zero. And the idea here is I want to be able to hit a target from zero, all the way out to the 110 yards. I don't want to, because I tried zeroing. If I zero at the center, all right. If we go back to that 50-yard zero, okay. At 50 yards, I was basically 2.5 inches high. If I readjust this zero, right, so that it's at the center, what's going to happen is when I get out to 110 yards, it's basically going to end up going like way below the paper, like almost 6 inches below the paper, and I'm going to be like, I'm not going to have any clue as to how, where it's going. Okay, so that's why you can't use a 50-yard zero. If you use that 18-yard zero, or even even if you round it off to a 20-yard zero, you will be able to hit a man-sized target from zero all the way out to 110 yards. And I kind of consider that the maximum range of this rifle. I mean, you may be able to push it out, maybe another 20 or 30 yards out there. But I mean, I think certainly if you get out to 150 yards, the bullets are just going to start spreading out so wide that you're basically that you're shooting into an area as opposed to shooting a man-sized target. Okay, so that 18-yard zero to 1875 yards. I mean, I think that is a good place to be. And if you guys decide that you want to do something different, you now have some numbers to work with, because basically you can use my numbers to kind of figure out what you can adjust to. So with an 18-yard zero, at 30 yards I'm 1.5 inches high. At 50 yards I'm 2.5 inches high. I have a zero at 75 yards, and at 110 yards I'm 4 inches low. And that's with putting the red dot right at the top of the paper, basically centering on the top line. Okay. Now, just to let you guys know what ammunition I was using, I was using the Winchester steel case ammo, which I think shot pretty good. I did run it through the chronograph to see what kind of speed I was getting out of it, and basically I was getting an average of about 1,360. Feet per second, so 1,360 feet per second. Okay, and then when I did the energy calculation, that was coming out to about 470 foot-pounds. So I'm just ballparking these numbers for you. So 470 foot-pounds, which is basically at the low end of a 357 Magnum. Okay, so that's what the 9mm is producing out of this rifle. When I shot that same ammo out of my Glock 17, it was producing 350 foot-pounds, which I thought was pretty good. That was like at the higher range of 9mm. So that's why I thought I'd use it today. So I'm getting 460 foot-pounds with the Winchester steel case out of this Beretta CX4 rifle. Okay, 470, I said, whatever I said. But anyway, that's why I write things down, because I can't remember. 470 foot-pounds, right? So there it is, guys. That's what I'm recommending for zeroing in your Beretta CX4 rifle. first zero at 18 yards, and that will give you a second zero at 75 yards. Post some comments, hit that like button or thumbs up or whatever's on this thing on this channel. I'll talk to you guys next time.